everyone. I am back. I'm actually back because after last week, I'm gonna be honest, I was really tempted to not even put that episode out, but I figured that some kind of rambling was better than nothing. And I almost I almost went and deleted it after I listened back to it and I was like, who is that? When I say that I don't react well to medications and to this is why I got off of everything. This is why after years of taking stuff for anxiety, depression, ADHD, I got off of everything because I hated the way that it made me feel like I was not in control of my body. And I have a friend that's kind of like this too. So it's not just a me thing. But I am totally fine. I'm feeling 100% like myself again, thank God, because that was brutal. And I've been I've been kind of sharing a little peek behind the curtain this week in a lot of my content. And when I first started this entire healing journey, it was when back in, oh my gosh, probably, I think it was like 2017, late 2017, early 2018 was when I really started to look into healing and become a little bit more spiritual and really kind of change the way that I always approach things. And for most of my life, from ages like, I think I first started getting into therapy when I was 5 or 6. I mean, I was really young. And I went to therapy originally to kind of talk about, the challenges with my parents' divorce. I mean, I didn't know that I was doing that at that age, because therapy when you're a kid is like kind of just playtime, and the therapist helps you like process and kind of talk about things while you're in the environment of play. It's actually really cute. But I had pretty much consistently gone to talk therapy from when I was like 5 or 6 to around 22, kind of 22, 23, off and on for years. It had always been helpful in helping me to kind of name my experiences. But when you go through really intense challenges, when you go through traumas, when your body is the one that's experiencing everything, you don't need to talk about it. You don't need to understand it. Talking about it is helpful when there is a constructive plan of how to move it out of your body. Talking about it should not be the only solution and modality. And I didn't know that. I didn't know. I thought that I was fine because I'd always gone to therapy and I really believed in therapy. And thankfully, over the last couple of decades or so, therapy's become very destigmatized. Thankfully, all of the modalities that we have to help us are viewed as a positive space now, and not necessarily like, oh my God, something's wrong with you. Like if you were caught reading a self-help book back in like the 80s and 90s, you were like looked at as weird because people back then did not ask for help. And that's, part of that generational pretend everything is okay, even though it's not, kind of energy that society and culture just had back then. But thankfully, over the years, self-help therapy, taking care of yourself has become very destigmatized. Now, when I went through, actually, it was prior to going through my separation, I went to the doctor and I was 24 at the time. And I go to the doctor and I'm like, hey, listen, I I run, I eat very clean. Like this was back when I was eating, mostly like raw plant-based, which now I've changed my viewpoint on that, but I eat very clean. I didn't drink ever. Like I'd have an occasional glass of red wine, but I got plenty of sleep. I, was running. I took care of my body. And yet, when I would sit down in the middle of the day, I couldn't get up. Like I physically, it was like if I stopped moving, my body just stopped. The fatigue that would hit me was insurmountable. My entire system was exhausted. And I remember talking to my mom about this, and she's like, that's not normal. You're 24 years old. You take care of yourself. You're too young to be experiencing this. So I go to my doctor and I'm sharing all of this with her. And she looks at me and she goes, do you have a history of any kind of like childhood trauma? I looked at her like she had six heads. I was like, how on earth do you know that? How is that correlated? Like you are a physician assistant, you're a PA. What are you doing talking about what I went through as a kid? And she actually named it. She said, do you have a history of sexual trauma? And I was like, how on earth? This is so specific. How on earth would you know that? And I go, yeah, I do. But it happened a long time ago. Like I'm totally fine, accepted it, moved on, I'm over it. And she goes, okay. Well, I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna write you a prescription for Xanax. But I want you to call this therapist. She does something called EMDR, and I just want you to talk to her, kind of see if she can help. And I was like, okay. And I had no idea that any of this was correlated. I was like, lady, I need you to tell me if I have cancer. Like I can't get up when I sit down. I must have like a tumor. Something must be medically very wrong. And without doing any testing, she was able to name that I actually had severe, like she was telling me and tapping into what I and so many others over the past couple of years have realized. And this was nearly 10 years ago. Oh my God, I can't believe this was almost 10 years ago. Wow. Anyway, so I call this therapist and I'm like, hey, so and so gave me your number. She said that I should talk to you. But listen, I've been doing therapy since I was like 6. I've been through the song and dance. I know how to talk about my feelings. Like, we're good. And she goes, okay, well, have you heard of EMDR? And I was like, no. And she goes, well, it's, still in clinical trials, but they primarily use it on those that come back from being in the military who have PTSD. It's shown really high success rates. And I'm like, I'm kind of open to trying anything that I think is helpful. Like, I'm not very resistant to trying new things or to change. But I was like, okay, but I don't like it's not that serious. I'm totally fine. And I've accepted things and like I don't have panic attacks. I'm not triggered. Like, I don't know what you're talking about. But I figured I would give it a try. So the first probably, I don't know, maybe 5 to 7 sessions, we are just talking. And she's understanding me, she's understanding my story. And I remember my first couple of appointments with her. I'm dressed very nice and I like walk in and I'm in my little my cute little heels and my jeans and my nice top and I look like I'm going out to like a dinner or something and she's super casual, sneakers, t-shirt, like very comfortable vibe. And I am presenting this perfect little housewife, this young mom who has it all together. I do everything right. Yeah, something happened to me when I was a kid, but like, whatever, moved on, not a big deal. And she immediately kind of sees through all of it, but she doesn't call it out yet. She just lets me get comfortable, get acclimated. And my walls are so far up because this image of what I had portrayed was my default. It was my protection. It was my way of presenting myself a specific way so that people only saw that and thought that I had everything together and I was perfect and everything was great. She's like, yeah, I see a lot of so and so's patients. We've done this before and kind of explains what it is. And I'm like, it's so like, I don't know how this is going to help, but whatever, I'm open. So we start talking, we start getting a little bit deeper. And that was right around the time that my separation had started as well. So everything was kind of hitting me all at once. And we finally start getting into the EMDR portion of this work. And it took, I don't even know how many months. I think that part of my life is kind of a blur because of everything that had started happening with buying a house and moving and then separating immediately after moving and kind of like coming out of that time trying to cope in the way that I always had, my default protection was always to pretend like everything was great and everything was together. And what I didn't know, and that what my body was screaming at me was, hey, all of the shit you've been through has worn you the fuck down. My whole system had been taking the beating of everything that had happened, to the point where, like, I think it became so, not even I think, it became so bad in my marriage of constantly falling back into that role of perfection, where on the outside I was doing everything right. I was understanding. I was like, we'll get help. Like, we'll go to couples counseling together. We'll do everything we can to save this. We've got a family together. We just moved to Nashville. Like, we can figure this out. And underneath, my body was screaming, we are being disrespected. We are being lied to. We're being manipulated. This is abuse. This is not okay. Like, my body was giving me all of these signals of this extreme fatigue because it had taken the hit of everything that I wasn't letting myself process. My conditioning was always to put on a brave face, put on your happy face, only be happy, only be understanding, only manage the emotions, only be the punching bag. You are the strong one, so you keep being the strong one and let everyone else around you be a complete and utter mess, and you handle their shit. That was my conditioning, and that was what I was playing out my entire life, all the way up until 24, when my body went, enough. I'm done. I can't take this anymore. And that was why I started crashing. It wasn't some kind of unexplained crazy tumor like I thought it was. It wasn't some kind of mystery illness or disease. It was my body screaming to be heard, saying, enough. I'm done. I can't take this anymore. And it had hit a head because of everything that was happening in my marriage. And God, even then, I didn't have the tools. I didn't have the understanding to process it properly. Like, you would think that I would finally recognize that that was what was happening, and I would have this like big crash out and let myself feel everything. I didn't. I instead switched into playing another role of being the enlightened one that had grieved and moved on from it perfectly, had switched into playing a form of, I'm going to choose to be happy and I'm going to choose to be joyful because I'm not a victim of life's circumstances. People get divorced all the time. People separate all the time. I'm totally fine. And I'm going to just choose to be happy and move on and continue to live my life, and everything's going to be great and perfect. And it was so easy. It was so easy to play that role. It was so easy to just be that version of myself again and not allow the space for the very real thing that was happening in my life, for the actual devastation that I felt. I still didn't let myself feel it. I made healing start to look like performing again. I was doing it even with a therapist, even with somebody who, and at this point, like right after my separation, this was right when my therapist and I were starting to get into EMDR. And if you're not familiar, it's a method where there's some kind of repetitive movement that helps you connect to your body and helps you connect to the present moment while you're remembering a very painful experience. It's actually incredible because there were memories that I had that were so deeply locked down that I couldn't access them until I started to do this therapy. And let me say, like, this took years. I mean, I would say probably close to a year of pretty consistent EMDR sessions until I started to have memories again. My body was so much in shutdown protection mode that I knew what had happened, but I didn't remember a lot of details about it until later, until I finally showed my body, hey, it's okay, we're safe, we can remember this, we can access it, we can process it. But it took so much work to get there. So as this was happening, I went right into, like I said, that performance that I'd always done, where I was journaling and I was reading and I was going to therapy and I was on the outside handling everything perfectly. And that was the case until I hit a breaking point, or rather, my body hit a breaking point. And it really came when I got Lyme disease, or after the Lyme disease really hit. That was when everything started really crashing down for me and I was forced to feel. And this was a cycle that went on for a long time, and even in that, like, it was so hard for me to live any other way. It was so hard for me to accept that I wasn't okay. I wasn't okay at all. There were some horrible things that happened and I needed to process them and I needed to grieve them. But I didn't know how. I didn't know I had no guidance, I had no clue, I had no idea what to do to process. And this is so true for so many of us. I think all of us. I haven't met one person that hasn't had some kind of trait that was either put on them or that they learned in childhood that they don't carry that trait into adulthood. Because you don't know any different. You don't know what you don't know. And so my harsh lesson was in year 24, when my body started screaming for help by being burnt out, by showing me how exhausted it was. That was when things started to shift. And by 25, I was separated. And by 26, 27, somewhere in there, it was late 2018 when I got Lyme disease. And all throughout 2019 was when it was really, really bad. So this was years of feeling like I was kind of stumbling through the dark and stumbling through this forest, not knowing what to do, not knowing that the whole time that I was projecting to the world, and honestly to myself, that I was fine, everything was fine, I've got everything handled, nothing shakes me, I'm good, I got it, don't worry, I'll handle it for all of us. The whole time that I was projecting that and feeling like if enough people around me saw me that way, then it was true, because it was all I knew how to do. The entire time my body was breaking. And as much as it's taken me years of acceptance and healing to say this, and I can't even believe I'm saying it out loud, I think getting Lyme disease was one of the best things that's ever happened to me, because it forced me to finally hear my body. It forced me to finally hear my pain. It forced me to finally slow down and be still and listen and feel and hear and tune in. I couldn't do anything that I do now until I did it first. I couldn't help other people connect and come home to their bodies unless I knew what it was like to experience that first. And if I hadn't gotten Lyme, I have no idea. I don't know what would have happened. I don't know what the story or the trajectory would have been if that hadn't happened. So as debilitating and honestly traumatizing and upsetting as it was, at this point, I hold a lot of space of understanding the higher workings of why it happened. Because as we've said in previous episodes, sometimes shitty things just happen. But I'm a firm believer that with most things, you can find something that it gave you out of that. And I would have never said this when I was in the thick of it. I would have never said this because it was debilitating. It did feel like I had lost my body all over again. It did feel like I was re-experiencing having my bodily autonomy taken from me, having my body hijacked by something else that I never gave permission for. But waking up every day and being forced to tune in to how am I feeling today instead of going on autopilot perfection, instead of going on, I'm healed because I do all the healing things, because I go to therapy, because I journal, because I look like I'm healed, because I look like I'm the wise spiritual guru that does everything right and I'm happy and I'm joyful and I'm at peace and blah, 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 blah. Instead of being able to live in that state, I was forced to wake up every day, feel the pain, feel my joints on fire, feel my feet hurt so bad when they hit the floor, feel what felt like lead weights in all of my limbs, feel my face and my arms and my legs full of inflammation, feel the complete utter exhaustion that I had to pep talk myself out of bed for. It was forcing me to feel what my body was going through. It was forcing me to feel my pain. Oof. Oh my God, I'm going to cry. I never know what I'm going to talk about. And then I end up making myself cry like every episode. Oh my God. It was, okay, get it together. It was forcing me to feel the pain that had been buried for my whole life. And it was such a gift because I'd never been able to access it before. I'd never been able to access feeling my body. I had just lived my life on the autopilot of this masking perfection of I've got everything together and I handle everything for everyone. And finally, it was my turn to tune into me. What do I need? What do I want? What do I feel? What is my body experiencing? And that allowed me to start healing, to stop performing healing, but actually start feeling healing. That allowed me to start to tap more into following my intuition. I'd never known how to do that before. I'd never known how to feel into a situation, feel the energy of something, feel the pull of something, feel this little tapping of, hey, I think you should follow this path. I didn't know how to do that. It came from a place of being forced. It came from this complete breaking down. And that was when I woke up every day and I had to tap into what's right for me right now, what's right for me today. And you know what? That and the help of some incredible people who facilitated in my healing process is how I'm sitting here today, Lyme free. That is how I'm sitting here today, able to feel things in my body, able to trust my gut, able to trust my intuition, able to notice when somebody's energy feels off to me, able to be so at peace with feeling all of my feelings, able to be so at peace about being so open about so many things that are happening now and that have happened in the past, because it's real, because I finally get to exist as a real, aligned version of myself where there's no separation from who I am and what I feel. There's no separation of what I portray to the world versus what's happening inside. It's all there. It's all so integrated. And I get to actually feel my way through life instead of perform my way through life. I get to actually set real boundaries. I get to have conversations with people where I'm like, hey, this is something I need. Or, hey, this is something that doesn't work for me. And I don't feel bad about it. Because when you spend so much of your life living on autopilot and living on performing the version of you that you are, you lose the ability, or for most of us, you never have the ability to actually advocate for you. You become a people pleaser. You become somebody who's constantly attuned into everyone else's needs, but not your own. You become someone who notices everyone else's shifts, but not yours. You notice their body language, but you don't notice what your body is feeling, because you've become so hyper aware of how to perform for everyone around you. You've gotten good at it, but you don't know how to feel. You don't know how to feel your body. You don't know how to feel yourself. You don't know how to process your emotions in the proper way. You don't know how to give space to these things. You don't know how to allow yourself to feel things without being completely drowned by them, because you suffocate those feelings so often. You don't know how to access them. There's so many ways that this plays out, and for everyone, it's a little bit different. For me, it was, let me make sure that I'm great for everyone else. Let me put on this mask. Let me perform. Let me never have needs. Let me never need to feel anything. It was safety. I was good at it. It was familiar. I knew how to do that. I didn't know how to feel. And I think a part of me was scared to feel, because I was afraid that when I started to tap into it, it was going to overwhelm me. It was going to take me down. It was going to take me out. I couldn't feel it. It was too much. There was too much pain. There was too much trauma. There was too much stuff. And actually, when I started to feel and started to integrate over the years, it was freeing. It felt like the bounds, like it felt like I'd been living my whole life in a straitjacket, just unable to move, unable to express, unable to experience. And I finally was released. I was finally free. And it was so empowering to let all of that shit come out. All of the grief, all of the rage, all of the anger, all of the injustice. It was liberating. I felt like I could breathe when I allowed space for those feelings, when I allowed my body to process these things. Was not overnight, and it was very hard, and it was at times almost debilitating to experience those things. But on the other side of it, on the other side of moving through those feelings and getting them out of my body, was freedom, was feeling like, I sound like a broken record, but genuinely, there's nothing else that I can use to describe it other than I felt like I was suffocating for nearly 3 decades of my life, and I could suddenly breathe. I suddenly had, it's like it was like this whatever was choking me and holding me back was gone. And that's the life that's waiting for all of us on the other side of performing. On the other side of, to everyone else, to the whole world, to your boss, to your social media, to your friends, to your family, especially to your family, to looking like you got it all together, to looking like you're killing it, you're crushing it. And that validation feels good, right? That validation of other people affirming to you how great you are. It feels good. Of course, it's easy to fall into that pattern. Of course, it's easy to fall into the pattern of performing that you're healing so well. Of course, it's easy to fit that mold of doing everything right, because it's so affirming. But if you're using it as a mask, if you're using it to project this image of this person who's got it all together all the time, they don't need anything. They help everyone else. You're cutting yourself off from experiencing your one beautiful, precious, rich life. You're cutting yourself off from feeling your way through life, from experiencing it in your body versus comprehending it in your mind. And it's so much sweeter and so much more open. So many things open up for you and come your way when you can experience your life through feeling it, through understanding your body's processing, through understanding your body's feeling, through understanding when your body tells you, yes, go here. No, don't go here. Person seems a little off. Oh no, this is a safe human. You get to tap into that. And it's so sweet. It's so incredible. I've actually been, a client I've been working with, I've gotten to see the progression of when we first started working together. There's an openness now. There's a peace now that I can physically see the changes. I can see it in the posture, in the body language, in the way she holds herself, in the way she speaks about things. And that's after a couple weeks of working together. And to get to do this work for others, to not only recognize that I started this 10 years ago, completely closed off from feeling and from tapping into my body and from understanding and feeling what I had been through, to go from performing my whole life 10 years ago, even 5 years ago. I'd say I think I was still performing my life up until I was like in my 30s, like early 30s, when I started to really feel that shift. To go from that to now being able to help others feel and tap in and do it in a safe way and have, a process. It's so fulfilling for me because I'm over here wanting to, and I am almost shouting it from the rooftops, how incredible and beautiful your life is when you experience it this way, when you experience it through this real feeling, when you get to make healing something that is so sacred and so powerful and so empowering for you, to finally give your body the opportunity to feel and to experience the things that it's always wanted to communicate to you. I want everyone to feel that. I want everyone to feel that liberated. I want everyone to experience that, because when you do, there's a whole other level of life that you get to unlock by feeling your way through it versus performing your way through it. And that's why I called somatic the force to flow method, because so many of us spend our lives forcing, projecting, putting on this image, being perfect, being everything to everyone else, because that's what we were taught. We were taught how to force our way through life. And I'm here to help you flow. I'm here to help you get into the dance of that feeling, that the richness that comes with allowing your body to be the one that's experiencing your one radical, beautiful, precious life. I have a form that, the quiz is a cute way to put it, where you can discover your default protection mode. And it takes like a minute to do. You do a multiple choice answer, and then I will reach out to you and go over it and share with you what my assessment of this is. So go take it. Link is below in the notes, and it's also in my Instagram bio, and I think I'll put it in my TikTok bio as well, if it's something you want to share. But as always, I'm so excited to be on this journey with you, and I love and support and believe in you so much. And I will talk with you next week.